Trump's lapdog, Emil Bove, is getting a step closer to having a lifetime appointment to the federal bench. And that's a big problem because many people are concerned. And we're going to talk about some of those concerns today. I'm Shant Karnikian. That's Brian Kabateck. This is Civil Action on Legal AF. Brian?
We kind of love to hate this guy. I mean, we've talked about him several times before because I think that Bove is, at least in Shant's lifetime and almost in my lifetime, the least qualified person nominated to the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals for the United States of America. That's an Article 3 lifetime appointment to the second highest court in the United States. And there's a lot of speculation that Trump is trying to put this guy on the fast track to be on the United States Supreme Court, which would clearly make him, at least in modern times, the most unqualified member of the United States Supreme Court ever.
Yeah.
Ever. My 24-year-old nephew who's starting law school in a few weeks is more qualified to be on a court than this guy.
Yeah. I mean, even if he doesn't get all the way up to the Supreme Court, and I know we talked about the possibility of that. I mean, having an appointment to the United States Court of Appeals, I mean, that's pretty big too. You're deciding appellate issues. You're deciding issues that the lower courts, when they make a decision and people think they got it wrong, he's deciding he's going to be shaping real law.
Remember, a very small number, certainly less than 100 cases a year go to the United States Supreme Court. That's out of tens of thousands of cases that are filed in federal court every year. So in most cases, the Court of Appeals is the last word. So let's bring folks up to date, Shant, on exactly where Mr. Bove is, who is, as you said, Trump's lapdog. This is the guy who was one of his criminal defense lawyers who came in, as I often say, second, meaning he lost. His client got convicted of 30 plus indictments. And now Trump is putting his little boy on the Court of Appeals. So bring folks up to date, Shant. Where are we with Mr. Bove and his journey through the Senate?
So he was nominated for the position, for the lifetime appointment. It's a lifetime gig. And a lot of people, started talking about this, and people brought a lot of things to light. You had a whistleblower saying that he specifically was instructing the Justice Department officials to disregard other federal judges that made rulings. He said we should start saying fuck you to these judges, which is kind of wild for someone to say that, a lawyer to say that, much less a lawyer within the federal government. But the formal process for how it works is it starts out in the Senate Judiciary Committee. And that's a committee of a group of senators that gets to evaluate judicial nominees. And they usually have a spirited discussion about this. And they consider the various factors. They consider the opinions of others. And if whether someone chimes in or not. Usually most nominees get some support. Some of them get some complaints or issues from the outside. And I think Emil Bove might have set a record for the number of people that have urged the Senate to reject the nomination. I'll start with
let's get into that. But before we get into that, let me just report what happened in the Senate Judiciary Committee. So it got out of the committee because the Republicans, of course, are going to vote anything Trump wants. They're going to vote for. And the Democrats on the committee got up and walked out. Senator Booker called it a disgrace. But before that happened, because we know what happened when Bove was at the Justice Department and a assistant U.S. attorney, that apparently he was the most hated man in the department. And that led to 900 former Justice Department officials, anywhere from trial lawyers to heads of departments and U.S. attorneys, sending a letter to the Senate asking that they seriously reconsider whether or not this guy should get this lifetime appointment. 900. If I got 9 people that said they didn't like me, I'd go in a closet and start to cry.
Yeah. There are 75 former judges, both federal and state judges, that expressed concerns about that. That's wild. How we talked. I remember one of the first things we ever talked about in this program on Legal AF was about how judges kind of all stand up for each other. They're supposed to be impartial and they try not to politicize too much. To have that many judges write in and say, this is ridiculous. This guy should not be a nominee. He shouldn't be considered for it. So you have that statistic too, between the 900 and then the 75 former state and federal judges. I mean, I think this is probably the most hated candidate or nominee you've ever seen.
I'm not going to read the whole letter, and the letter's available. You could find it online, but I want to just go to one part of one paragraph about what you said earlier. Quote, questioned repeatedly over whether he told Department of Justice attorneys to consider saying, fuck you to courts, he mustered only a, quote, I don't recall.
Right. Not a no, I didn't say that, but I don't recall.
So I've been a lawyer for a long time. And when somebody says, I don't recall to something like that, it clearly means I recall, but I'm not going to tell you.
Right. How does a jury react when you ask a witness something like that? You remember saying that and the witness doesn't say no unequivocally and they say, I don't remember saying that. I mean,
I don't recall. Where were you why was your blood on your hands when the police showed up? I don't recall.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very clear admission without making an admission.
Yeah.
And that what he was trying to do was encourage people to disregard court orders. Court orders, which is what judges make, are court orders.
Yeah.
The real question here, Shant, is where is the profile and courage in the Republican senators? Because the way it works is the Republican senators, it doesn't go back to Congress. The Senate confirms or rejects judicial appointments. Where's the profile and courage among these people?
Yeah. I mean, it's wild. I mean, and we keep seeing stuff like this too. This isn't the first of Trump's personal lawyers in his many legal battles that he's had to defend against, who is nominated to a position like this or appointed to some high profile job within the administration. You got a few others, but this is the first former Trump lawyer, lapdog, to be appointed, or for Trump to try to appoint to the federal bench, right? This is the first one. I mean, it's all about testing boundaries. Why do you think he's doing this, Ron?
Well, I mean, I think that one of the reasons is clear. And I said earlier, which is I think he would like to fast track him to the Supreme Court because he would like his lapdog on the Supreme Court to endorse whatever happens. And there are at least two members, Alito and Thomas, who are up there in years. They're not elderly like me, but they're up there. And I think that's one of the reasons. I think the other is, Trump pushes the boundaries. And with these senators, he can push the boundaries. So I'll just give you my final thoughts on this. I think that there has to be some point where they draw the line. Is this going to be the point where they draw the line? I don't know. But there is no courage. And maybe this is one of those situations, Shant, where this kind of flies below the radar for most public. They don't completely understand. They don't comprehend how significant this is. But in the legal world, this is highly significant.
Yeah.
And he's testing the boundaries and he wants to see how far he can go with these senators. He's going to find out.
Yeah. I mean, I do hope there's someone has some courage and stands up to this. When I saw the hearing today in the Senate Judiciary Committee, I was kind of looking at Chuck Grassley and going, how he has to know inside that what he's doing is so cowardly. I think he has to know. I think it's going to reach a tipping point where people look at it and go, this is nonsense. Yeah, I'm a Republican. Yeah, I voted for this guy, but this is nonsense. You can't have someone like this be a judge. The guy's not qualified. And I think people see that. And I hope people see that. This is an important issue. We'll keep following this guy because he's if anything, at the very least, he's an interesting character, least qualified person to be put up for this position. And just a fascinating character, and just goes to illustrate the absurdity here. Well, thank you for tuning in. We'll keep you posted on this. I'm Shant Karnikian. That's Brian Kabateck. This is Civil Action on Legal AF. See you next time.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.